A brand new season of The Bachelorette has begun, and you know what that means. We've got a fresh season preview to break down as we try and sleuth out everything we can in pursuit of seeing who gets eliminated each week, who gets caught up in all the drama, and ultimately, who wins Michelle's heart, which is something I'm going to go over at the end of the video. And this preview is a big one, so we're not going to be wasting any time here. If you're new to the channel and these videos, we really only have one rule. Please no posting any blatant spoilers in the comment section below, unless you can back it up with sleuthing from the previews or an official source like a contestant's or the Bachelorette's social media pages. And if you'd like to watch the preview in full without interruption, I've left a link to that in the description. Alright, pausing here, not to try and psych out Michelle before her field goal attempt, but to point out this logo right here. If the Viking outfits and the Sea of Purple weren't a big enough giveaway themselves, Michelle and the gang here are in Minneapolis, Minnesota for a group date at US Bank Stadium, the home of the Minnesota Vikings football team. As we talked about in my preseason preview breakdown, we know that partway through the season, the show breaks out of the bubble and travels to Minnesota, where Michelle is from. And after that last video, I got tons of comments from viewers pointing out all the different locations and landmarks they spotted from Minneapolis in various date shots. But one question you may have is, at what point does the season move from Palm Springs, where the season started, to Minnesota? Well, we might have a clue for that in the preview that they gave us at the beginning of the first episode. I'm not really going to include that preview in this video because the vast majority of it is footage from Night 1's episode, or footage that we've seen before in the preseason preview that they gave us at the end of Bachelor in Paradise, which you should check out if you haven't. However, there's a small section there where a group of men are yelling out Michelle, and they're in Minneapolis. Check it out. Now, it's pretty normal for the gang to all yell out the lead's name whenever they come to a new location, which here is the Stone Arch Bridge in Minneapolis. We just haven't seen that happen in years because this is the first time the show has traveled outside of a bubble since Peter's season. Now, if that is the case, Michelle and the group would be moving from Palm Springs once they get down to 11 men, as seen here. However, I'm not going to double down on that, as this could potentially just be a group date. But either way, we get a good look at 11 of the men who are going to make it this far, with a possibility that one or two others aren't there and are getting a one-on-one that week. We can see Rick, Chris, aka Millhouse as I call him, Clayton, Rodney, then move over and we get a better shot of Brandon, Nate, Joe, and I think maybe Leroy at the end there. From this angle, we can also see for sure Martin, and based on this tattoo on his left arm that matches up with this Instagram photo, this guy right here is Casey. Plus, based off this shot during the Vikings date, we know that Illumide is in Minnesota as well. So that's 10, maybe all 11 of the men identified, that's for sure in the top 11, or at most, top 13. As at this point in the season, we'll have for sure transitioned away from the time where they have 2 group dates in an episode. Really helps us as we narrow things down to a top 4, and this will also be a reference point for who won't be getting eliminated in the first few weeks. But we should keep rolling because there's still a lot to talk about.
I'm looking for my soulmate.
Who has what it takes to be the last man standing?
You ready?
Are you ready?
Okay, pause. Here we have a one-on-one with Rodney, which we know for sure is a one-on-one as we'll see these two in the same outfits during a dinner date later. Other than that, we have a group date, which we've seen before in the preseason preview. This is going to be early on, likely when the show is doing 2 group dates and a single one-on-one in an episode. Check out the California flag in the background, meaning we're still in Palm Springs at this point. Moving on.
Michelle is the most genuine person.
I truly care about the small moments that you can make.
This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for a 1 in a billion girl.
Alright, so here we're getting a bunch of group date shots, like here on a farm date, and then here at the Palm Springs Air Museum, as we can identify the plane that Michelle is in, the checkmate, from that museum. According to their website, this is one of their loudest aircrafts that they operate. Now, for our sleuthing purposes, there are 2 shots I want you to remember from this section. Here with Nate on a one-on-one, and then this shot right here of Michelle walking forward pensively. Now, why is this important? Well, since the last preview breakdown, we've been talking about a third filming location after Minnesota. The place where the final rose ceremony is shot, as seen here from the preseason preview. A very beachy, very tropical, very non-Minnesota location. Now this shot right here looks a lot like the kind of shot we see near the end of a season where a lead is walking along thinking about the decision that they have ahead with their final 3 or final 2. And the background is giving me the vibes of this final rose ceremony location. Now this kind of knowledge is important as we can then take any beach date footage from the previews and speculate that the guy on the date could be in Michelle's final 3. And based off the preseason preview, Brandon is in 2 of these types of shots, which is why Brandon has made it into my top 3. I'll detail more on that later, so let's keep going.
I've never let fear hold me back.
I would believe it's eat my dust.
I want someone who's gonna be playful with me.
Alright, pausing here as we have more one-on-one date footage, the same one-on-one date we talked about with Rodney earlier, what looks to be a group date shot with Nate, and a one-on-one with Martin. This looks to be in Palm Springs, so this date with Martin will be early on.
I'm not sure who's gonna get sick, me or you.
Oh my god!
This is Michelle's journey.
This is what I came here for.
Alright, gotta give it up for the half-court shot. This, by the way, is a group date from early on in the show that I talked about in the preseason preview. And here with Clayton, this seems to be the same evening portion of a group date that we saw earlier with Nate, as Michelle is in the same outfit in both shots. But alright, the music is about to shift, and we're gonna enter the romance part of the preview.
These guys are like the best guys I've met in my entire life.
Every time I see you, it's literally a breath of fresh air.
I can easily see a life with Michelle.
What more could a girl ask for?
Okay, so here's a one-on-one date with Joe at Target Field, the home of the Minnesota Twins. Another date that we discussed in the last preview breakdown. But the big shot that I want to talk about here is not Rodney's one-on-one, not Jamie's one-on-one, not this moment with Illumide, but 2 back-to-back shots with Nate. Now at first glance, and as the preview quickly pushes through all the footage, this all seems like one date. But when we take some time to stop and really look, Michelle is actually wearing 2 different swimsuits. One here in this boat, and then also here, then a different one on this paddleboard. Now yes, Nate is wearing the same orange trunks in both shots, but what do you think is more likely? That Michelle changes partway through a date, or that a dude only brought 1 pair of swim trunks with him on the Bachelorette? As a man, I can tell you the latter is a highly likely scenario. Also, we know that contestants are not given a lot of space for luggage on the show and have to pack their own clothing, which is often why we see contestants wear each other's clothes. And heck, look at the one swimsuit Nate is wearing in his Instagram photos from outside the show. But I will say this swimsuit stuff with Michelle and Nate also seemed very familiar. Remember these 2 shots from the preseason preview with Brandon? 2 different swimsuits on a beach that Michelle is wearing, but it also kinda looks like Brandon is wearing the same blue trunks in both shots, just like with Nate. Could this possibly be 2 scenarios where Michelle changes swimsuits halfway through a date? She doesn't seem to make outfit changes in the middle of a day portion of any other date, like here on the baseball date, and then here during the day portion of that same date with Joe at Michelle's high school. Could this be a major coincidence? Could Brandon have also just brought 1 pair of swim trunks like Nate? Or is this a huge conspiracy? Now, we've been noticing more and more over the past couple of seasons, contestants repeating outfits and tripping us up. I'm starting to wonder if stuff like this swimsuit business is being encouraged. Heck, how do we not know that during the day 1 raid of the contestants' rooms, Tayshia and Caitlyn didn't storm through everyone's luggage and pull out all the swim trunks except for 1 pair? Maybe all that Ryan stuff with the Bachelorette notes was a complete distraction to pull us away from the truth that Tayshia and Caitlyn were stealing the men's swim trunks. Wake up, sheeple! Alright, let's get back to the preview.
That was the hottest kiss of my life.
I just want to stand next to her and be with her and hold her.
This is our journey!
When I'm with him, I feel fireworks.
Okay, so here we've got some interesting one-on-one shots. A repeat of the day portion of the same date we saw before with Rodney, as the 2 are in these same outfits here, as in here on these bikes. This date with Rick is one that's from early on, as the cable cars here are from when they're still in Palm Springs. But most interesting of all is this shot with Joe. I guess we can't see who it is for sure, but the bald or shaved head would suggest that it has to be Joe, maybe Nate. But according to Joe's basketball stats, he's about 6'3". Michelle is 5'7", and Nate is 6'8", a height that would make even Thomas here blush.
How tall are you?
6'6".
Oh my goodness.
Large human.
So given that the height difference here is somewhat close together, I'd say we're definitely looking at Joe. And I think the important thing to note in this shot is the palm tree in the background. This is not Minnesota. Now yes, it could be Palm Springs, I suppose, but I'm getting the feeling that we're at the final 3 location here, especially considering how hidden Joe is in the shot that they've given us. So if the sheer amount of Joe footage from the previews wasn't enough to convince me that Joe is in the top 3, this certainly does. Moving on.
The more time that I spend with her, the more I realize she could be the one.
I'm in love with this man. You have to make a wish.
What if it really came true?
I just have this weird feeling anything could happen.
Alright, we're about to shift into the drama section of the preview, but before we get there, we have another date in Minneapolis as the skyline in the background matches up as seen here. Clayton then gets his one-on-one right here, and we have a closer look at that sunset shot, which looks a lot more like Joe. However, I really want to talk about this shot. It's given me major Final Location vibes, and if we take a look at the tattoo right here, this matches up with Nate's tattoo we can see on his Instagram page, giving me more reason to believe that Nate is also in that final 3. But let's now get into the drama.
A lot of the guys are questioning that. You might have known him before here.
Do you think they had a previous relationship?
He said he doesn't know her, but there's something he's not telling all of us.
Well, it wouldn't be a season of The Bachelorette without some of the dudes turning on each other at some point. Now first I'm just going to point out the dinner date shot I was talking about earlier with Rodney, but otherwise, the men are talking about Michelle having a previous relationship with someone on the show. If I had to guess, they're talking about Joe and Michelle's DMs. It's either that or something they've yet to introduce. But considering Martin and Spencer here look to still be in Palm Springs, this seems very early on. Makes sense to me that right after the rose ceremony where Michelle walked out and then came back to give Joe a rose, that people will start to talk and eventually figure out what went down. I guess we'll see for sure in the weeks to come, so let's keep going.
Nate is a player.
You're an actor, and you've come on a reality TV show.
What are you talking about?
It seems like there's a rat in our midst.
I'm gonna keep exposing you. I'm gonna keep calling you out. You're a clown. You're a clown. You need to keep your mouth shut.
You're not the big dog.
So it looks like there's some Nate shade and a feud between Peter and Will to come. We've talked about this Nate stuff before, but nothing that this preview gives me, whether it's all even true or not, can convince me that Nate is in trouble, at least at this point. All other evidence points to Nate going very far, and I'm going to stick to that over some drama that could still be a fake-out. But let me tell you, if Nate is an actor, he's no Meryl Streep.
You need to keep your mouth shut.
You're not the big dog. The big dog has a jacket.
He just took his jacket?
How you like me now? It looked dirty, so I figured I'd give it a little bath.
This man is really pushing my buttons.
Alright, that's my favorite part of the preview. The jacket in the pool, and then this man really pushes my buttons. So it looks like the long-standing tradition of contestants throwing stuff into water continues this season. We had Lincoln's picture, Jordan and that stuffed animal, now Will's jacket. Ultimately though, drama like this always catches up to people, and with how little we see of these two later on, not to mention there's really no sign of them in this shot right here, I'd expect both of these two to eventually be sent home. So, moving on.
I just feel unseen.
She feels like she's not appreciated.
They need to show you that they're gonna fight for your attention. I can't keep giving and not getting it back.
So a little bit of dramatic footage here that seems to revolve around someone who's not giving enough back in the relationship. Here we're in Minneapolis, wonder if there's someone who Michelle's feeling she's giving a lot to in the relationship and not getting a lot back from, and here she's sent them home. We'll have to see, but let's continue.
To my future soulmate.
Finding love hasn't really been easy for me. I was never the girl invited to dates at the apple orchard in the fall.
So here we're going through a poem that's been featured in the previews before, and includes an apple orchard date with Rodney where hopefully he'll actually learn a thing or two about apples. We also get footage of Rick again on a one-on-one, but this is the same date as we saw earlier, as their outfits here match the ones on their Palm Springs cable car date. Then here with Joe, we're in Minneapolis at the Betty Danger's Country Club that many people commented on in the last video, and this date, both here and here with Brandon in an indoor skate park, we can sleuth out is actually in Minnesota. As if you Google best skate parks in Minneapolis, it'll lead you on to some photos that match up with the location of this date. Meaning we've got one-on-one date footage of Brandon here in Minnesota, and then here, definitely not in Minnesota. And having more than a single one-on-one date is another big indicator for how far someone goes.
I was the girl picked last for prom, but the first for basketball. It was like there was nobody like me.
Oh, man.
Therefore, there was nobody to see me. I can no longer trust you.
Pausing here to point out this shot with Brandon that looks really rough. And at first glance, it might seem like a moment where he could potentially be going home. However, shout out to the viewer who located yet another place in Minnesota as they recognized the staircase in Semple Mansion, a popular event and wedding venue in Minneapolis. Meaning, if Brandon makes it to this beachy location after their time in Minnesota, whatever drama happens here is not something like him being sent home. But alright, let's now finish this preview off and talk about final pick predictions.
Hey soulmate, if you're listening, you'll need to understand, in my heart of hearts, all I've ever wanted is love. And I hope you can be that man.
And there you have it. So in this last bit of footage, we get a lot of stuff we talked about in the preseason preview, specifically that final rose ceremony footage. However, we also get a new bit from the night portion of a one-on-one date with Jamie. Note that he gets a rose at the end of this date, as seen here. But with that, let's now talk Final Four and my final pick. So if you watched my Night 1 recap, you'll know my early predictions for a top 4 were in no particular order: Joe, Brandon, Nate, and Clayton, or maybe Rick. That last spot is really up in the air. So how did I get down to those 4? Well, first, to do that, we go through the list of guys and mark off any that either have no screen time, no romance footage, or a lot of drama stuff going on. Like Will and Peter are cut for all that jacket stuff. Doing that already knocks us down to 8 guys. I'm then gonna cut Jamie as well because I don't see him in this shot. Doesn't mean he's not there or he's not somewhere waiting for a one-on-one, but overall he's just not in the previews enough, apart from a single one-on-one, to boost him over other guys. So I feel pretty safe with that. And if he does somehow slip into that number 4 position, there's no way he goes beyond that. I'm also going to take off Martin for similar reasons, though we do know he makes it to Minnesota, which leaves us with 6 men: Nate, Joe, Rick, Rodney, Brandon, and Clayton. Now, Rodney is a wild card. I could see him being in the top 4. I could also see him getting eliminated before this top 6. I'm gonna tick him off for now as, like with Jamie or Martin, I just don't see any way he makes it past the top 3, which is a very solid trio, leaving Rick and Clayton for that number 4 spot. Rick is another unknown. Clayton, however, is very known. So at this point, it's not a spoiler. Jesse Palmer, the new host, has posted about it. All the major news publications have too. Clayton is our next Bachelor. So he has to make it some distance, right? Right? Just for that reason, I'm gonna throw him in the number 4 spot. Although I could see him getting the boot right before hometowns, with him only having one solid bit of one-on-one footage from the previews. Really, for that number 4 slot, I don't have any stronger evidence than that, so I'm tentatively going to go with Clayton for now. That leaves the top 3. A very solid 3 as I see it. Nate, Brandon, and Joe, who all seem to have multiple one-on-one date shots and footage that looks like it could be from this final rose ceremony filming location. Now with Joe, he seems to be the most showcased man from all the previews, which, over the years, I've noticed is something that often means you make it far, but don't win. For example, the last 2 Bachelorette seasons had Greg and Ben as having, by far, the most preview screen time, and they finished 3rd and 2nd, respectively. So I'm putting Joe at number 3 for now, though he could easily be a top 2. And the reason he's getting third is because of Brandon. Simply put, these 2 shots of Brandon could be from separate dates at the final filming location, which would mean, at the very least, a final 3 date and then a final 2 date, as this location would have to take place at some point after the final 4's hometowns. Now, could there be another explanation for these 2 shots? Sure, but this is the strongest evidence I have for a possible final 2 date, so that's why I'm going in this direction. Which leaves Nate. Part of the reason why Nate is my final pick is because of the great Night 1 edit he got, and the stellar track record First Impression Rose recipients get on The Bachelorette, not The Bachelor though. But the other part is, I couldn't pick Joe for the reasons I stated earlier, and I just couldn't bring myself to picking Brandon as the number 1. I don't know, I don't see it. I just don't see these 2 getting engaged. Really, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's Brandon's baby face? I just don't feel like these 2 are it. So that leaves just Nate, who I do see it with. Maybe I've been swayed from the connection that they established Night 1, maybe it's that there's more hidden romance shots of Michelle and Nate in the previews, and the one-on-one date shots with Brandon have very little of the 2 of them kissing, giving me more of a fling or friendship vibe. But as a result, Nate is my pick. Maybe we'll see more of a connection with Brandon over the course of the season, and that will change things, but if anything does change, you'll be sure to know about it in the upcoming preview breakdowns. But for now, there you have it, the full season preview breakdown, and I'm really looking forward to seeing it all play out. So that's it for this preview breakdown. I hope you enjoyed it, and be sure to give the video a like, subscribe for more, and hit the little bell to turn on notifications for when videos come out. We've got tons of content ahead as this new season begins, so until next time, Bachelor Fantake, out.
He just took his jacket?
How you like me now?
This man is really pushing my buttons.